this morning, sun's a bit hazy. Checking the forecast, things looking crazy. A storm on the horizon, the pressure is low. Gotta get moving, put on a show. The news is all buzzing, state of alert, but we've got a plan, we're ready to work. Emergency Management Associates, we're here for the crisis, we're here for the fates. From the first sign of trouble to the all clear sign, we're on the front lines, we're one of a kind. Emergency Management Associates, we're the calm in the chaos, we're opening gates, connecting the dots and making the calls. We're picking you up when you're starting to fall. See a little fire or a rising flood, we're a well-oiled machine, we're running in the mud. From the city hall meetings to the rescue teams, turning worst case scenarios into hopeful dreams. We're training the people, we're stocking the gear, we're the team you can count on when trouble is near. Emergency Management Associates, we're here for the crisis, we're here for the fates. From the first sign of trouble to the all clear sign, we're on the front lines, we're one of a kind. Emergency Management Associates, we're the calm in the chaos, we're opening gates, connecting the dots and making the calls. We're picking you up when you're starting to fall. It's more than a job, it's a calling, you see. Prepared for the present and what's yet to be. Every second counts, we're ready to react for our communities. We're making an impact. Emergency Management Associates, we're here for the crisis, we're here for the fates. From the first sign of trouble to the all clear sign, we're on the front lines, we're one of a kind. Emergency Management Associates, we're the calm in the chaos, we're opening gates, connecting the dots and making the calls. We're picking you up when you're starting to fall. Yeah, we're picking you up, we're ready to go. EMA, let's get this show on the road.
Let's do it, guys. Let's kick this can. Let's kick this can right now. What do you say, guys? Let's do it. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. My name is Ron Tyler. I'm the president of Emergency Management Associates. We're coming to you from the studios and offices of the EMA, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. Welcome to our show today, guys. We're glad to be with you. First off, I want to tell you this. They've caught, arrested, and the suspect in the fires in Washington State has been in court today. He's confessed to the crimes. He's confessed to setting 25 fires in Washington State so far. Let's give you this information right now. Okay?
Hundreds of buildings that have been destroyed, but when it comes specifically to the Old Trails fire, we are talking about an arson case. We just shared with you the new information about Aaron Farinacci, the man accused of starting that Old Trails fire. He did appear in court on Tuesday on a first-degree arson charge. Now, the latest reporting coming in, he could be tied to 20-plus other fires. Now, we'll jump back into the courtroom. Just a reminder, there may be some movement on this camera. This is a raw live feed coming in from Spokane County. As we wait for Farinacci to appear in court, I believe he will be appearing virtually. That is what happened on Tuesday. Again, the backstory on this one, we understand that he's going to be facing a number of new charges. Let's listen in live to hear the judge.
2, This is the matter of Aaron Farinacci. This is a time and date set for an arraignment. An arraignment is a preliminary appearance where an individual is asked to make a preliminary plea. Typically, an individual, if enters a not guilty plea at this time, it preserves the right to trial. At this time, the court has several motions to address. First, though, Mr. Farinacci, would you state your name for the record?
Yes, this is a big boss.
Okay, I can't let this commercial go. Give me just a second. Let's let this video play out. Get back to the court right now.
Pires Real Talk, 1989.
Mr. Farinacci, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to represent you. Do you have any question about those rights that Mr. Charbonneau can answer for you?
I do not.
Very good. Mr. Charbonneau, being appointed here to represent you, you have the right to a speedy and public trial in the county where the offense is alleged to have been committed. You have the right at trial to remain silent. You need not testify against yourself. You have the right at trial to testify and have witnesses testify at no expense to you. You have the right to hear and question witnesses who testify against you. You are presumed innocent unless the charge is proven beyond a reasonable doubt or you enter a plea of guilty, and you have the right to appeal a finding of guilt after trial. Any questions about those rights for your attorney?
No.
Very good. At this time, the first matter we have is a request to shorten time to amend the information. Is there any objection to hearing the motion to amend on shortened time, Mr. Charbonneau?
No, no.
The court will grant that request. Any objection to probable cause at this time as to the amended information, Mr. Charbonneau?
Judge, we're going to continue to reserve any argument with respect to probable cause.
Thank you. Prosecutor McCollum, any additional argument as to the amendment at this time?
No, Your Honor. The state's prepared to ask the court to enter amended release conditions in relation to the amended information.
Thank you. The court will first, having reviewed the amended probable cause affidavit, do find probable cause for the amended charges. In finding probable cause at this time, we will turn to granting the motion in order amending the information. We will turn to argument as to release conditions. Mr. McCollum.
Your Honor, I'm asking the court to impose the previous release conditions with the addition that I am asking the court to increase bail or bond in this amount to $2 million, given the gravity of these charges, given the addition of 4 separate arson counts. I am asking the court to increase that bond at this point and include the previous conditions, which include appearing at all court dates, regular contact with counsel, remain in Spokane County, commit no further law violations, obey any and all orders in effect. Likewise, no approaching or communicating with any crime victims or witnesses as outlined in the probable cause affidavit, and then no frequenting of any of the areas or known locations listed in the probable cause affidavit for the offenses charged. Likewise, to have no use or possession of any lighter, matches, torch, or any other fire-starting device.
Mr. Charbonneau, any argument as to bond or release?
No, Your Honor, we're going to continue to reserve argument with respect to bond and release.
Thank you. Based on the arguments of Prosecutor McCollum as well as a review of CAR 3.2, the court does find that there is a significant risk to community safety as well as the potential for a violent offense and future failure to appear. The court believes that the amount as requested by Prosecutor McCollum is appropriate and will set bond in the amount of $2 million. The court will adopt all other release conditions as proposed at this time and note the reservation on those by defense. Turning then to the amended information. Mr. Charbonneau, have you reviewed the amended information with your client?
Judge, we have reviewed the information, but we're going to move the court for an order of competency evaluation pursuant to RCW 1077. I provided those documents to Mr. McCollum and the state. They have signed off on those documents. So procedurally, Judge, I don't know if the court would like to invoke the 24-hour rule, but we anticipate that hearing being struck as soon as we enter the paperwork.
Mr. McCollum, what's the position of the state?
Your Honor, the state's position is in light of the defense motion on the 1077 that precedes the arraignment given the nature of the request from defense. So I believe at this stage procedurally that would stay arraignment in light of the 1077 request at this time.
The court will consider then this matter stay. The court will review and anticipate signing off on the presented document to have the evaluation conducted. don't believe it would make sense then to set another hearing within the 24 hours, though if that order is not assigned and stayed, the court will reset arraignment within the 24-hour period pursuant to the rules. So at this time, the court will review documents associated with the evaluation. With that, Mr. Charbonneau?
Judge, we'll have those documents to you this afternoon.
All right. And Prosecutor McCollum, anything additional?
Your Honor, in terms of if the court does grant the 1077 stay order and evaluation, then we would need a scheduling order placing this on the stay docket. Mr. Charbonneau has prepared a scheduling order with a proposed date of September 4th, 2026 on the stay calendar. And so that, my understanding, will be presented contemporaneous with the order on 1077.
Very good. The court will review that. In addition to reviewing the stay order, the court will review the scheduling order and set appropriately. If for any reason that the stay is not granted, then this matter will be reset for tomorrow, though the court anticipates that it will review and sign off on the scheduling order pursuant to the pleadings. With that, that will conclude this matter at this time. Mr. Farinacci, you will remain held on $2,000 bond, as well as the other conditions of this court. $2 million bond, in addition to the other conditions of this court as indicated herein. That will conclude this matter. The court will step off as we transition to our next matters.
All right, so there you have it. Live coverage coming in to the Fox 13 Seattle newsroom. Aaron Farinacci, the man accused of starting not just one fire, but now we're hearing 25 fires. Most importantly, the most recent one out there in Spokane, the old Trails fire. You could see that this is a digital arrival inside the Spokane County Courthouse. The media in there bringing us this live view. We'll bring in a picture of Farinacci from a previous headshot, mugshot, I don't know what you want to call this, but the big breaking news that we were just sharing with you guys a short while ago, once in custody, arrested 3 days ago, and on the record interview with investigators, he spilled beans on 20 plus other fires, said that he started 25. They have not yet confirmed all of those from our understanding, but we know that they have at least confirmed some of those fires and do believe he caused them because they just added 4 additional charges. A reminder, in Washington, 1 fire equals 1 arson charge. All right, so that is the latest on that. And we could dig much more into that. However, we are also actively getting in an update from the Spokane County Sheriff as all of this is unfolding. We'll jump right into that next.
These guards people are members of our community. They have had their lives disrupted. Some of them have had their homes destroyed. Some of them have had to be evacuated out of their homes, and they are here serving our community. Please, please be compliant with them. Please treat them with respect.
Okay, I'm going to just pause that just briefly. Apparently, the National Guard troops have been treated with disrespect in terms of the National Guard troops got their orders from the sheriff and the local police to block off streets, to also go through neighborhoods and ask people to leave, and the National Guard troops have been disrespected. That's why the sheriff is talking about this right now.
I will tell people again, in the areas that were effectively actually damaged and affected by these fires, it is not safe for people to be in there. Our firefighters in those damaged areas at night use aerial drone surveillance to detect hotspots. And I will tell you, there is enough human activity, people who are in those areas against the level 3 evacuation orders, that last night they could not fly those missions because there is too much human activity producing hotspots. If you are in those areas, leave. You are preventing our firefighters from doing as good a job as they can do.
Okay, those people operating drones will be arrested in Washington State or any other state when they're preventing firefighters or even firefighters in the air from doing their jobs, putting out the fires. Let me put that out again. If you are a drone operator, flying your drones over a fire, you're impeding fire operations, you can and will be arrested for those charges. Don't do it. You're putting plane operations in dire danger because planes get struck by drones and they crash in the fire. Don't do it. Stay out of the fire areas, guys. Don't do it. Ever. Not now, not ever. Okay? Again, the arsonist from Washington State has been placed in custody as of Tuesday, and now he's admitted and confessed to starting 25 of those fires in Washington State. The 3 fires that we already talked about the other day on Tuesday, guys, or on Wednesday, I should say, those fires, guys, were started by this man, and those aren't the only 3 fires that's going on. However, those fires have disrupted people's lives. They've destroyed over 700 structures, homes and other outbuildings out there. The fires destroyed those. They've left 60,000 people without homes. 60,000 people without homes, guys. That's tremendous carnage. Tremendous carnage. Okay? We're going to hear more about this. Again, the judge today set a $2 million bond on his head. He has a court appearance for alleged arraignment on September 7th, 1 month from today. 1 month from today. We're going to hear more about this as we go on. Other fires in Washington State have blackened over 420,000 acres. 420,000 acres on fire in Washington State alone. That is tremendous fire acreage destroyed. Okay? Yes, we've talked significantly about 3 of those fires that have caused 60,000 acres to burn. Guess what? That's a drop in the bucket to actually what has happened now. That's just a drop in the bucket. 480,000 acres burned in Washington State alone. That's not to include Oregon. That's not to include California, Idaho, dropping down into Utah. Over 400,000 acres burned in central Utah. Going down into Arizona, more acres have been burned in Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, North and South Dakota, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and even Texas. Fires burning all throughout the western side of the United States. Please be careful out there. Do not flick your butts out the window. During this coming weekend, starting today, those states I just named are under what they call red flag warnings, meaning there's going to be low humidity, very low, very high temperatures, and the possibility of starting fires is imminent. Don't flick your cigarette butts onto the ground. Don't flick them outside windows of your car. Don't pull your car onto very dry conditions on the roadway. Don't do it at all. You will be arrested. You'll be arrested for arson charges. Don't do it. There are plain civilian-led vehicles out on the road containing police officers. There are civilian vehicles out on the road containing police officers. They're there to observe and report fires being started. They're observing and reporting fires that are going to be started. Don't do it. You can and will be arrested. You can and will be arrested. Now, guys, let's talk about earthquakes as well. Okay? I'm going to go over the USGS map now and show you earthquakes that have happened. Now, these earthquakes are not the only earthquakes on the map. I'm just going to show you what USGS wants us to see. I'm going to make comment on those earthquakes as well. Okay? What USGS is showing us is not necessarily the truth at all. I want to make that very clear. What the United States Geological Survey is showing us is not exactly true. Okay? For one, okay, on the USGS map here, okay, down here south of the Philippines, this large island to the south in the Philippines is called Mindanao, Philippines. Mindanao, Philippines. They're showing 3 earthquakes here. There are 10. There are 10 earthquakes here, guys. Down here to the south here. This is a 4.6 earthquake here. A moderate 4.6 earthquake. This is 45 kilometers deep, about 27 miles deep. Okay. This earthquake here is a 4.5 earthquake. This is 102 kilometers deep. This earthquake I just showed you now is 244 kilometers east-southeast of Sarangani, Philippines. Interesting enough. Look where it's at. Look where it's at, guys. Okay? Way out here. Way the heck out here, almost in Indonesia. This is a 4.5 earthquake here. 10 kilometers deep. 6.2 miles deep. Let's go up here to the north. Mindoro, Philippines here. Mindoro Island, Philippines. This island to the north is called Luzon, Philippines. The second largest island in the Philippines, but this is the largest island to the north of the Philippines. Okay? Look where Manila is. Look where Manila is, guys. Manila is the capital of the Philippines. Now let's go down and show you this earthquake here. USGS is saying this is a 5.0 earthquake. USBS is showing this to be a 5.0 large earthquake. Let me tell you right now, USGS is lying through the teeth about this one as well. They're lying through the teeth about this one as well. Let me best go back out here a little bit. Why do I do that? Because I want to show you the towns around this earthquake. The people living in these towns were subjected to not just large 5.0 energy here in the northern mountains of Mindoro, Philippines here, but guess what? This earthquake was not a 5.0 earthquake, but a 5.8 very large earthquake. 80 times larger. 80 times larger than what USGS has it to be. That's unheard of, guys. That is completely unheard of. Completely unheard of. USGS is not even taking compensatory allegations against themselves. I have evidence here to show you that USGS does not have any earthquakes shown on their back seismologist study page to show anything close to 5.8. Okay? Nothing close to it. Because again, they don't want to have to take responsibility for what they're showing us here. They downgrade this earthquake to 5.0. Okay? This 5.0 earthquake, 5.8, has potential opportunity to disrupt the activity all over this archipelago. All over this archipelago, guys. What I call an archipelago. Look at all these islands here. Look at all these islands. This is called the Philippine archipelago. This 5.8 earthquake was felt in Manila. The 5.8 earthquake was felt in Manila. That's why I want to show you this. This is not just a 5.0, but an 80 times larger earthquake than they say it is. Okay? Also, okay, those tremors felt up in the city of Manila prompted precautionary evacuations as well. According to detailed advisories issued by the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, the tectonic event occurred at 10:38 this morning local time in the Philippines, and instruments registered this as a magnitude 5.8, with the epicenter position approximately 21 miles I shouldn't say 21 miles, 21 kilometers, about 11 miles southwest Mamburao, Occidental Moro, Philippines province, Moro province. Seismologists noted this system struck at a very shallow depth of 10 kilometers deep, 6.2 miles deep, a factor that significantly amplified the perception of shaking across multiple surrounding regions. The perception of shaking around multiple surrounding regions, including upwards north to Manila. In the metropolitan capital of Manila, Philippines, witnesses and office workers reported feeling distinct sustained swaying in commercial high-rises and government buildings. As a standard safety precaution, employees at several key state agency buildings quickly interrupted their operations and evacuated to streets and open courtyards while structural integrity assessments were being initiated by local emergency management teams. I verified this information about 12 noon today, Eastern Time, which is actually nighttime in the Philippines. Despite the shallow nature of this 5.8 magnitude earthquake, initial technical assessments from the disaster risk reduction officials indicate that there is no significant structural damage from this incident. There is no significant structural damage from this incident. However, because of the size of this earthquake, the possibility of corresponding aftershocks, seismological authorities remain vigilant standby for potential aftershocks. Aftershocks up until including even maybe a 5.0 to 5.5 earthquake. This is not a 5.0 as USGS pointed out, it's a 5.8 very large earthquake. A 5.8 very large earthquake, guys. I'm telling you, USGS continues to cut their own throats, cut their noses off to spite their face. This is terrible information from USGS. Okay? What used to be an agency that was renowned worldwide is now making their noise known as nothing to be deserved. Nothing to be deserved. USGS is a laughingstock agency around the world. That's pretty sad. That's very sad, guys. This agency, guys, is an agency that was highly respected up until about 10 years ago. 10 years ago, they started not speaking about earthquakes, not even giving any information until it was absolutely necessary. Then when confronted, they denied any culpability. That's pretty sad. That's pretty sad. Now, let me back out just a little bit. Okay? Besides that 5.8 earthquake, there's another earthquake just west of Luzon, Philippines here. I want to show you that earthquake right now. Okay? Off the western side of Luzon, Philippines here. Okay? Right here. This is a 3.1 earthquake here. That's a 3.1 earthquake on the earthquake fault. When we zoom into this earthquake, even though USGS does not have it here on the map, I'm going to zoom in right here where this earthquake hit. Right there. 3.1 small earthquake there. This is the European map that I'm showing you today. So far, down here in the mountains of Mindanao, Philippines, this remains a 5.8 earthquake here. Regardless of what USGS wants to say, it's a 5.8 very large earthquake. Sad that USGS doesn't like to even tell the truth. Very sad. Okay? Now, like I said, regional agencies are continuing to stand by to monitor coastal and inland zones for any unforeseen impacts. They're on a potential, literally vigilant standby for more earthquakes and aftershocks. Okay? We're going to continue to monitor this region, both in the southern Philippines and the northern Philippines here. And if anything changes or more developments become available, we'll bring them to you as soon as the information becomes available. Now, I want to go over to Peru. I want to go over here to Peru. USGS took this information down, but I want to go over here anyway. There's a lot of information I want to talk to you about today. Happened right here in this area here. Okay? There are villages here. There are small towns here, guys. Villages and small towns throughout this area. This is where a 5.3 large earthquake hit yesterday. Okay? A 5.3 magnitude earthquake, large earthquake, struck Huachachi, Huayuchchi, Peru, yesterday about 6 miles deep. 10 kilometers deep, 6 miles deep. Now, this one had a 3.7 magnitude aftershock. A 3.7 magnitude aftershock. That aftershock was recorded shortly after the main seismic event being a 5.3 earthquake. Peru's government has expanded a 60-day state of emergency, specifically covering the earthquakes that happened here during last week. During last week, guys, we've had significant earthquake activity here in Peru. Okay? This 5.3 earthquake follows a larger 5.5 earthquake that hit in the nearby Huachi region on July 18th. July 18th, guys. Okay? Just about 21 days ago. That 5.5 earthquake killed at least 5 to 6 people and injured over 30 others. And that earthquake destroyed dozens of adobe homes in that area. Adobe homes are unreinforced masonry. Unreinforced masonry homes don't stand up to a large earthquake. Yesterday's 5.3 occurred about 7 kilometers southwest of Huachachi, Peru, again at a shallow depth of 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles deep. Okay? Peru is continuing, like I said, a state of emergency because now they've had 3 large earthquakes in this region in the past month. 3 large earthquakes in the past month. Okay? Structural damage from that earthquake was heavy damage to the traditional rustic adobe homes, the schools and roads in the communities across the districts like Chongos, Bajo, and Huachi. Severe structural cracks and damage to historic 16th century structures, including the Santiago de Leon Church in Chongos, Bajo. A 16th century church destroyed. The earlier July event left at least 5 to 6 people dead, over 150 people injured, and roughly 300 residents displaced without homes. Now, assessments of both these earthquakes are ongoing right now. Okay? People have been left homeless. 5 to 6 people have been unalived. Earthquakes wreak destruction, guys. Earthquakes wreak destruction. Sleeping Volcano was in our chat here. She's telling us about another 3.5 small earthquake in the South Pacific Ocean, northeast of Wakatagi Bay, Bay of Plenty, New Zealand. Just north of New Zealand, the Bay of Plenty. Okay, that's kind of normal for that region. USGS not even showing earthquakes there right now. They're not showing any earthquakes down here in New Zealand whatsoever. That earthquake just hit is here over here in the Bay of Plenty right here. This is called the Bay of Plenty here. Okay? USGS not showing any earthquakes. There are a ton of earthquakes there, guys. There are a ton of earthquakes. Now I'm going to go over here and show you earthquakes here in New Zealand right now. Look at that, guys. Nearly 30 earthquakes here in New Zealand total. 30 earthquakes here in New Zealand total. Okay? Look at all these earthquakes in the Bay of Plenty itself. Okay? The northeastern side of the Bay of Plenty, here's a 2.8. On the Fiji fault zone, this is a 2.73. South at 2.73 is a 3.63. That's a 3.5 US just saying. A 3.63 earthquake. Okay? Going south here, this is a 2.73. All over New Zealand, we have 2.0 to 2.9 minor earthquakes and 3.0 to 3.7 small earthquakes all over the New Zealand islands. 2 islands in New Zealand, guys. All those earthquakes here. Let me count them real quick. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 27, 28, 29, 32 earthquakes here. 32 earthquakes, including 3 earthquakes down here in the southwestern side of the South Island of New Zealand, where another 5.3 earthquake hit here just about a week ago. A 5.3 earthquake hit here on the southern west side of the South Island of New Zealand. Today here in the same area, guys, this is a 2.973.0 earthquake. This is a 2.39 earthquake here. And this is a 2.35 earthquake here. Okay, the 5.3 earthquake just hit there last week. We talked about that. We showed that earthquake, guys. Earthquakes like this are happening everywhere. Everywhere. Now again, let me back this off a little bit here. USGS not showing earthquakes here. Why not? Why not? Again, over here on the eastern side of the North Island here, they are expecting an 8.0 megathrust earthquake here, they say within the next 25 years. I think it's going to be a lot sooner than that. Why? Because of this. Because of this. Right here along the northern shoreline, this is a 2.3 earthquake here. They had a 4.9 earthquake here yesterday. They had a 4.9 earthquake here yesterday. Now a 2.30 earthquake there today. Over here in Hawke's Bay. Hawke's Bay is right here, guys. This is a 2.2 minor earthquake here. Earthquakes continue here, guys. Earthquakes continue. As I said, The scientists here in New Zealand and the USGS also are very aware that there's an 8.0 megathrust earthquake that's going to occur here on the east side of the North Island. But remember this. Look at that fault zone coming down the east side of the island, coming out of Tonga up here. Guess what? That earthquake fault then goes south and cuts across the southern end of the North Island and through the northern part of the South Island. What does that mean? That means that same 8.0 plus energy here, that same 8.0 plus energy here is going to be transmitted down the South Island as well. It's going to be transmitted down the South Island as well. Okay? Think about that. Yes, we have viewers from New Zealand that watch our program. That's why I'm talking about this. That's why I'm talking about this. Yes, Linda Covington, we probably won't be here. But I'm talking about this right now because these people need to be aware of it. These people need to be aware of what exactly is happening. The USGS and the other agencies aren't even showing here. The USGS is doing a terrible thing for these people. They're doing a terrible thing for these people. Going up here to the north. Fiji, guys. Fiji. Fiji right here. We have two earthquakes, you guys. Two earthquakes. This happens to be a 4.3 earthquake here. This happens to be a 4.3 earthquake, but guess what? This is also 504 kilometers deep. This is a deep earthquake. This is a deep earthquake, guys. A deep earthquake. What does that mean? Deep earthquakes propagate larger shallow earthquakes. Deep earthquakes propagate larger shallow earthquakes. Let's go to our depth to magnitude conversion chart. 504 kilometers deep. Let's look at this. Okay, 504 kilometers deep here. Okay, this chart, let's look at the third aisle here from the left. Third column from the left, I should say. Let's look at 505 kilometers deep. We're going to add a 1.01 to the magnitude of this earthquake. 1.01 to the magnitude of this earthquake. Going back to this earthquake here. This is a 4.3. We're going to add a 1.01 to this earthquake, which means we're going to have a 5.4 earthquake here. A 5.4 earthquake here within the next 3 to 10 days. Within the next 3 to 10 days. Also here, we have a 4.2 earthquake here as well. Guys, this is 508 kilometers deep. 508 kilometers deep. That's still a deep earthquake. Let's go back to the depth to magnitude conversion chart. We're going to add a 1.02 to this earthquake here. As a result of this earthquake here today, we're going to add 1.02 to it. We're going to have a 5.3 earthquake as a result of this earthquake here, which means within the next 3 to 10 days, we're going to see at least 2 5.0 plus earthquakes here in the Southern Pacific here, either in Fiji, up here in Tonga, Samoa region, Fiji region, down here in the Legacy Islands, New Caledonia, over here in Vanuatu, or possibly it's further west of Solomon Islands here, or even Papua New Guinea. Okay? We're going to see at least 2 more 5.0 plus earthquakes here. As a result of those 2 earthquakes in Fiji. Over in Tonga here, in Tonga, we have a 4.4 earthquake here, northwest of Hifo, Tonga. Northwest of Hifo, Tonga here. Let's zoom in here, guys. Hifo, Tonga is right there. Okay? This is a 4.4 earthquake. This is only 165 kilometers deep. A shell earthquake. Shell earthquake here. Neither the earthquakes in Fiji or the earthquake here in Tonga were felt by anyone, because these earthquakes were far enough off the shore. They were only moderate earthquakes. Nobody on land felt these earthquakes at all. The Pacific Ocean waters absorbed the shock waves from these quakes. That's what happened here. Now, again, okay? Going over here into Indonesia. USGS has shown us 1 earthquake. There are 49 earthquakes here in Indonesia. USGS is showing 1 earthquake. North of Batang, Indonesia. North of Batang, Indonesia. 4.8 earthquake off the shoreline. Nobody felt it. The ocean waters absorbed the shock waves from this quake as well. What about the other 49 earthquakes here? The other 49 earthquakes, people felt them. They felt them, guys. US just not even talking about it. US just not even talking about it. That is what's so sad about this whole thing. USGS not wanting to take responsibility at all. Not one bit. Not one bit. Over in the Philippines, USGS showing us 4 earthquakes? Really? As I said before, there are 10 earthquakes here in the Philippines today. 3 earthquakes not shallow, 3 earthquakes south of the big island of the Philippines called Mindanao, Philippines here. I showed you those 4.3, 4.4, 4.7 earthquakes. How about this earthquake here? Panabo, Philippines here. Panabo, Philippines right here. 3.4 small earthquake there. Okay. Out here on the southeastern part of the Mindanao, Philippines here, we have a 3.2 earthquake there. Okay. We have these 3 earthquakes the USGS identified already. One further to the southwest here, a 3.5 earthquake there. You move further to the southeast here, this is a 4.3 earthquake there. Going further to the southeast, 3 more earthquakes here. North Sulawesi, Indonesia. North Sulawesi, Indonesia here. right out of here. USGS is showing us this earthquake here, 4.5, but they're not showing us two other earthquakes right here. This is a 3.9 earthquake here. And this is a 3.4 earthquake here. Again, USGS not doing their job, are they? Not at all. Not at all. Now let's go to Oregon. Let's talk about that earthquake off of Oregon yesterday. Okay? Okay? Right up here off the Blanco fracture zone here. Okay? It was a 4.3. It was a moderate 4.3 earthquake. Okay? 73 miles west of Port Orford. But earlier this week, we had a 5.0 earthquake there as well. A 5.0 earthquake here as well. Off the coast of Port Orford, Oregon. 79 miles, 128 kilometers west-southwest of Port Orford, Oregon. At a depth of 6.2 miles deep, 10 kilometers deep. That 5.0 earthquake happened on August 6th, yesterday. Now, while recent notable regional activity included 5.0 events earlier this year, yesterday's earthquake and today's earthquakes here in the Pacific Northwest are apt to trigger more earthquakes. They're apt to trigger more earthquakes. Yesterday's 5.0 triggered no tsunami warnings or damage far enough ashore. Even 79 miles away from the shoreline. USGS had one person only, that said they felt the earthquake on land in Oregon. One person came forward in Port Orford saying they felt that earthquake 79 miles away. Shell earthquake, that's why. These frequent earthquakes in this region usually don't cause damage on land because they're far enough offshore. Okay? But again, we are in the Cascadia subduction zone area. We are in the Cascadia subduction zone region, guys. Why do we talk about this? Why do we talk about this? Because, guys, this Cascadia earthquake is going to cause a 9.0, 10.0 megathrust earthquake. It's going to cause a 9.0, 10.0 megathrust earthquake to occur. Okay? And while some scientists believe that this earthquake is not going to occur for up to 50 years from now, most of us know very well firm that's going to probably happen long before that. My firm opinion is this: the Cascadia megathrust earthquake will probably occur within the next 5 years. I don't prognosticate earthquakes. I don't forecast earthquakes. But given all the data that I've done, all the research I've done, it all points to the Cascadia earthquake happening a lot sooner than those scientists are even saying. Now, guys, you know I don't trust those scientists at all, because all they do is lie to all of us. They never tell us exact truths at all. They never do and never will. They never report earthquakes at volcanoes, number one. They never report earthquakes at Mount Rainier. Look at that. We know darn well there are earthquakes today at Mount Rainier. There are tremors 1.0, 1.9. There are 2.0, 2.9 minor earthquakes. And yes, there are 3.0 to 3.5 small earthquakes at Mount Rainier today. We know that. They happen all the time. The same thing is in effect over here at Mount St. Helens. West Mount St. Helens today, USGS is showing us a 0.5 microquake. There are hundreds of microquakes at both these volcanoes. USGS shows us a 0.5 microquake. That's crap. That's garbage. Southeast Mount St. Helens, USGS is showing us a 1.2 tremor. There are hundreds of tremors here at Mount St. Helens on a daily basis. There are also 3.0 small earthquakes here at Mount St. Helens today that they're not showing us all the time. There are significant tremors and minor earthquakes happening up and down the coastline. Vancouver Island, all over the coastline of Washington State, inland as well, all over the coastline inland of Oregon as well. USGS not showing us squat, not squat. Now, let's go over here to Haida Gwaii. Off the coast of Haida Gwaii here, we're showing a 4.1 moderate earthquake here. A 4.1 moderate earthquake. Well, guess what? USGS is showing this to be a 4.1 earthquake 211 kilometers southwest of Heidelberg, Alaska. Southwest of Heidelberg, Alaska. Guys, let me tell you this. USGS is out of their freaking minds. USGS is out of their freaking gourds. Okay? Let me show you where Heidelberg, Alaska is. Heidelberg, Alaska, guys, way up north. Way up north here. That earthquake is just off the coast of Haida Gwaii. And yet this USGS identifies this earthquake as 211 kilometers southwest of Heidelberg, Alaska. Yet it is not more than 57 kilometers off the coast of Haida Gwaii. That's what's called lying through their teeth. Not telling us the truth about anything. Nothing. Now, guys, I hate like heck bad-mouthing them. I hate like heck bad-mouthing an agency that I used to revere back when I was in college. I used to think the world of those people. I used to think the world of those people, guys. Now I can't stand them. Going down here in the southern part of the Cascades subduction zone region. The southern part of the Cascades subduction zone region, we have earthquakes here as well. Over here near south of the border of Oregon and California here. This is a 2.0 earthquake here. 24 kilometers, approximately 14 miles, north-northwest, Wichpec, California. Wichpec, California. Weitchpec, California. 2.01 earthquake here. Further south here, this one was just barely off the coast on the fault zone. On the fault zone, guys, another 2.0 earthquake here, 13 kilometers, 9 miles west of Bayview, California. 9 miles west of Bayview, California. Down further south to the east here. This is 1.5 miles southeast of Ferndale, California. Another 2.0 earthquake. Another 2.0 earthquake. 3 2.0 earthquakes here in the southern part of the Cascade subduction zone. Yeah. 3 earthquakes here, 2.0 minor earthquakes in the southern region of the Cascade subduction zone. There's something else I need to talk to you about. Right down here. This is a 2.0 minor earthquake in Covelo, California. Covelo, California. We've had a lot of earthquakes here in Covelo, California recently, as of the last week. Now, a magnitude 4.0 moderate earthquake is the kind of thing most Californians sleep straight through if it happens in the middle of the night. Moderate earthquakes. 4.2 moderate earthquakes. Might feel just minor shaking, but it still happened. 4.2 earthquake, can rattle a few windows, maybe knock a coffee mug off a shelf. But by lunchtime, nobody's talking about it. So Northern California, like it actually means something because of where it hit. The mountainous region of northwestern California. This 4.2 did not strike some random patch of mountainous territory. It struck the exact seam. The exact seam here, guys. The exact seam where the San Andreas Fault to the west and 2 other faults, the Macama Fault and the Bartlett Springs Fault, draw closer together here. Okay? The Macama Fault and the Bartlett Springs Fault come together right here. Okay? This junction of earthquake faults has stayed quiet for more than 26 years. More than 26 years. Some of the most dangerous faults on the continent come closer together. We talked about this before as well. South of San Francisco Bay, where the San Andreas, the Hayward, and the Calaveras Faults come together. 3 of those most dangerous earthquake faults in the world. Okay? Yes, I know for a fact the USGS and other agencies are monitoring those earthquake faults. Continuous monitoring helps improve hazard assessments. It also helps with emergency preparedness efforts as well. Emergency preparedness efforts as well. Now, despite dramatic headlines, increased seismic activity does not necessarily mean a major earthquake is imminent. Just because we've had 4.2, 4.5, 3.2, 3.5, 2.5, 2.2, and 2.0 earthquakes here in Covelo, California, does not mean there's going to be an imminent large earthquake. Not the case at all. Scientists are continuing to collect data and analyzing that data while emphasizing that earthquake forecasting remains an active area of research rather than exact science. USGS cannot forecast anything. They're not looking at the right data, number one. Now, we've had 3 earthquakes here in the last week on the same fault line, same week. One of these earthquakes just broke a record that stood for the entire length of modern seismic history in this region. Okay? One of the faults and one of these earthquakes broke a record for the entire length of modern seismic history in this region. What is happening right now underneath Northern California? It's not normal. What's happening now is not normal at all. Okay? It's not routine background noise as USGS would have us believe. USGS is saying this is background noise. It's not. Sometimes people scroll past and forget. Totally forget about it as if it doesn't matter. But because right beneath your feet, 2 massive fault systems are here. 2 massive fault systems that scientists have been watching for years. They're waking up in a way that nobody has been fully prepared for. And the data, the actual numbers, the actual seismic records are now telling a story that the demands are full attention. So let's get into it. I'm not going to give you any fluff. I'm not going to talk about filler at all. I'm going to give you the hard facts about what is happening here in Northern California. Northern California's earthquake problem, and why that earthquake problem has gotten significantly worse, and what all this activity is actually pointing towards. Let's start with what just happened this week, because what has happened this week sets the stage for everything that follows. We got hit with an earthquake triplet near Cabello, California, and Mendocino County, Northern California. A triplet earthquake. Triplet earthquake, guys. We've seen it, we talked about it. A magnitude 4.4 earthquake hit, then a 3.9 earthquake followed. And this comes right on the heels of another 4.4 earthquake that hit on July 10th. Also in the Bartlett Springs Fault, a magnitude 4.2 hit and rattled Coverdale on July 28th. 10 days ago. 3 significant earthquakes within weeks of each other. And the same fault network as well. The same exact fault network. That's not happenstance, guys. It doesn't work that way. And when you pull back and look at what is already sitting on the record books, just before these earthquakes struck, the picture becomes genuinely alarming. Genuinely remarkable, alarming. On June 24, 2026, a magnitude 5.6 earthquake struck near Yucaipa, California, and Willits, California, in Mendocino County, just north of this earthquake that you see here. 5.6 earthquake. 5.6 earthquake. And 6 other earthquakes struck near this area in Mendocino County in the last 3 weeks. And that earthquake was not just big. According to seismologists, that magnitude 5.6 earthquake, the largest earthquake ever recorded on the Macama Fault in the entire span of seismic monitoring, was the largest earthquake ever. 5.6 earthquake here on the Macama Fault. Now, just weeks after that historic rupture, we're getting 4.4 earthquakes popping off in the neighboring Bartlett Springs fault. And this is a sequence of events that demands that we sit down and have a serious conversation. Let's first talk about these two faults. Because what we understand about these two faults, Macama and the Bartlett Springs fault, is essential to understanding why this matters so much. The Macama fault, let me zoom in here. The Macama fault and the Bartlett Springs fault are right there together, as you see here. Okay? The Macama and the Bartlett Springs are both major branches of the San Andreas Fault system. They're branches of the San Andreas Fault system. The San Andreas Fault, as we talked about, gets all the fame, doesn't it? Because it's a big name. The name that everyone knows. But the Bartlett Springs and the Macama faults run alongside it, parallel to it, stretching throughout Northern California 100 miles each long. 100 miles long each. These earthquake faults are not minor. The Bartlett Springs fault zone runs from around Clear Lake. Let me bring Clear Lake up here. See where Clear Lake is down here, guys? The Bartlett Springs fault goes all the way up here to the north, doesn't it? With this 2.2 earthquake hit today. Okay? Runs all the way down to also the Round Valley Seismic Reservation, a Round Valley volcano to the east. Okay? The Bartlett Springs fault runs all the way down here, out here to the east to Round Valley volcano over here in Southern California. Actually, Central California. Round Valley volcanoes in Southern California. South Central California over by Long Valley. South of Long Valley volcano. Okay? Now, the Bartlett Springs fault up here is what they call a right lateral strike slip fault. A right lateral strike slip fault. Let me show you an image of what a right lateral strip fault looks like. What a right lateral strike slip fault looks like. This right here. This is what they call a right lateral strike slip. Part of the fault moves further to the north. The other moves further to the south on a right lateral strike slip. Right lateral, guys, a right lateral. Off to the other side of the fault. Right lateral strike slip fault. Okay? Now, this means the ground on one side moves to the right relative to the other side. This happens also on the San Andreas Fault. It happens on the same as the San Andreas Fault. Right lateral strike slip. Now, officially, according to USGS, and published by the USGS, this fault here, the Bartlett Springs Fault, is capable of a major 7.0 earthquake. Capable of a 7.0 major earthquake. Northern California. Northern California, guys. What else do we have here in Northern California? Mount Shasta and Mount Lassen as well, don't we? Could the Bartlett Springs or the Macama Fault, the 7.0 earthquake, trigger either of those volcanoes? Possibly. Possibly could happen. Now, this is not a theoretical model somebody ran on a computer and filed away some decades ago. This is the assessment that's currently working in the USGS database right now. The Macama Fault runs through Soma and Mendocino counties, passing through areas near Yucaipa and Willits, California, where we had that other earthquake 2 weeks ago. It is situated between the San Andreas to the west and the Bartlett Springs Fault to the east. And as of July 24th this year, it produced the largest earthquake ever recorded in its history, the 5.6 earthquake. The largest earthquake recorded in its history on the Macama Fault. Now, what is especially significant about this? How that June earthquake ruptured. The focal mechanism. Okay? When we talk about focal mechanism, we usually see that ball where we see how the earthquake ruptured, either to the northeast or to the southwest or otherwise, northwest to southeast. Okay? The focal mechanism, which is essentially the geological fingerprint of how a fault moves during an earthquake. It showed a near perfect right lateral strike slip motion. A right lateral strike slip motion fault move. No ambiguity at all. A clean direct fault rupture. Here. And the earthquake struck at a shallow depth. So the people here they're walking on the crust of the earth here, felt over a wide area. Shallow earthquakes are more widely felt than deep earthquakes, as we pointed out before. The people felt this earthquake and felt strong shaking near the epicenter. The shaking was also felt across a wide area, even over into Nevada. Guys. That is a 5.6 earthquake there, guys. And in the days that followed that earthquake, guess what happened? Something else happened that caught the attention of scientists and residents alike. I touched on this a little bit yesterday. New water springs developed. New water springs that have been dry for years started flowing with water. Wells that had been producing normally suddenly doubled or tripled their output. This is what happens, guys, when a significant earthquake hits and reshapes the underground plumbing of a landscape. It reshaped the plumbing of the landscape around this earthquake. 5.6 earthquake here, guys. It opened new fractures. It shifted the water table, reconnecting underground pathways that had been otherwise sealed before that. The earth physically moved. People said they could see it in the water coming out of the ground. Now this is here where it goes from notable to deeply significant. Look at the timeline again, and also the geography put together. In September 2025, a magnitude 4.3 struck in Berkeley, California. just north of San Francisco Bay here, northeast San Francisco Bay here. Okay? A 4.3 earthquake in Berkeley, California. We reported on that sequence when it happened. In December 2025, a 4.0 earthquake hit near Glen Ellen, California. In January 2026, a 4.4 earthquake hit near the same Bartlett Springs corridor. Then the magnitude 5.6 hit in June, which is a historic McConnell fault. Then the magnitude 4.2 in Cloverdale. Where's Cloverdale, guys? Where's Cloverdale? Right down here. Cloverdale's right here. Today, Cloverdale had a 0.8 microquake and a 1.5 tremor here. Cloverdale, California. The area is still moving. This area is still moving, guys. Okay? Then the magnitude 4.4 in Bartlett Springs on July 10th. July 10th right here. And now in early August, another 4.4 and a magnitude 3.9 hitting Cabello, California. Fancy that. When you draw all these points together and connect them in time, you see a clear pattern of energy migrating progressively northward through Northern California with increasing magnitude. Increasing magnitude, guys, large earthquakes and the frequency of earthquakes as well, the number of earthquakes, the strength and the increase in number of earthquakes. That's not random, guys. It's not random. Random noise doesn't organize itself into random clusters with escalating earthquake intensities over a compressed timeline. Doesn't happen. Let's talk about what makes current activity on the Bartlett Springs Fault so striking from a historical perspective. If we pull up the full earthquake catalog, going back to the year 2000, and we filter for magnitude 4.0s or larger in the Cabello region, specifically in the Bartlett Springs Fault area, what you find is almost nothing for 2.5 decades. Almost no earthquakes here at all for 20 years. 20 years. There was some around January of the year 2000. That's it. Clusters included a 4.2 and a 4.3, and a 4.6 all within a week's time period. Then a 4.0 in 2003. And then after that, for the next 22 years, nothing. Nothing at all. Then all of a sudden we have these earthquakes here. 22 years of silence here around the Bartlett Springs and the McConnell Fault. Adjacent fault to the San Andreas. Suddenly in 2021, we had a 4.1 near Cabello, California. And now in 2026, within the span of 3 weeks, you get 2 more. Then 2 magnitude 4s or greater in 1 month on a fault that had not produced a single earthquake, not one, in over 2 decades. Over 2 decades. When we look at the historical book, we have to pay attention because faults do not randomly wake up. Faults do not randomly wake up. There's a reason for it. We've talked about stress before. We've talked about the center and the salt being locked and loaded. Something is loading. Energy is transferring here. This brings us to the broader picture, because what is happening in Northern California right now is not occurring in isolation. It's happening in the context of one of the most seismically active stretches of time in a recent global history. The most seismically active stretch of time in recent history. Researchers who've been tracking global cumulative seismic stress found that in 2025 was one of the strongest years on record. The cumulative seismic energy released globally in 2025 reached approximately at 334 terawatt hours. 334 terawatt hours for earthquakes of magnitude 5 or greater. Earthquakes of magnitude 5 and greater, large earthquakes. That is close to triple the value seen in 2021. 4 years' time, which was already considered a highly active year because of 3 magnitude 8.0 or large earthquakes that occurred in rapid succession in 2021. In 2022, guess what happened? The cumulative value dropped to under 29 terawatt hours. In 2024, it was even lower at 22 terawatt hours. And now in 26, in just the first 7 months, we are already exceeding the total cumulative seismic energy released in all of 2024 and all of 2022, with 5 full months still remaining in this year. That is not a marginal increase. That is a dramatic elevation of planetary seismic output. A huge dramatic elevation in planetary seismic output. Earthquakes. We're talking about earthquakes. And when the whole planet is shaking more, California does not get to sit out the earthquake shake. California is not sitting out the earthquake shaking at all. We're seeing more and more earthquakes shaking California than ever. Energy transfers, faults that interact, and stress propagating the crust. Stress propagating the crust. Propagating, guys, large earthquakes, large deep earthquakes, propagating larger shallower quakes. Deep earthquakes propagating larger shallow earthquakes. Look at the major seismic events surrounding what is happening in Northern California. On the same day as the historic 5.6 struck Willits, Venezuela was hit by magnitude 7.2 and 7.5. Same day, which according to the country's own officials represented the strongest seismic event in Venezuela since the year 1812. The strongest seismic event since 1812. And while we're talking about Venezuela, guess what? I've got a video to show you about Venezuela. Watch this. More and more animals are being found alive in Venezuela after the quake.
Miracle pet rescues continue more than a month after 2 large earthquakes shook Venezuela.
And today, crews on the ground are now working to reunite those pets with their owners. Local 10's Cody Weddle is live in La Guaira with the story. Cody?
So, Calvin and Nicole, it's been a phenomenon that veterinarians can't explain. Nearly 40 days after these earthquakes, and somehow these small animals, beloved pets, have managed to survive. A cat named Felix, barely clinging to life, but vets say he will survive, pulled from under the rubble of a collapsed building after 32 days.
todo menos a Felipe.
Felix's owner, Francis Garcia, says she lost everything except her beloved cat.
Perdí a mi papá, que es el amor de mi vida, nunca lo voy a olvidar. Y bueno, perdí también a mi otro gatico, Lucas.
She lost her father, she says, 61-year-old Antonio Ramon Garcia, and another pet. Felix, now a miracle among so much pain, she says. While it's been weeks since a person has been found alive under the rubble, several animals have been rescued alive in recent weeks, including a turtle and a small dog. Felix now recovering at a makeshift McDonald's that has been converted into a clinic. We are in what used to be a McDonald's, but following those double earthquakes, it has been converted into an emergency clinic, both for pets and for people.
Miasis, que son gusanos, deshidrataciones.
Veterinarian Carlos Rodriguez saying parasites, dehydration, burns, diarrhea among the most common injuries.
Mi gato para mí es todo. Se duerme hasta conmigo.
Pet owners like Garcia thankful for the volunteers still providing hope amidst the devastation. So many people and animals suffered injuries during those earthquakes. Those medical professionals say that makeshift clinic is still very much needed. We're live in La Guaira. I'm Cody Weddle, Local 10 News.
Lots of
Okay, the animals are still being found in the rubble, but no humans there at all. That's pretty sad. They're finding animals still alive in that rubble. Okay? Now, we had that 7.2 and 7.5 earthquake on the same day as we had that 5.6 in Willis, California. Two major fault systems on opposite ends of the hemisphere. Two major fault systems on opposite ends of the hemisphere, erupting on the same calendar day. Then in July 26, 2026, a magnitude 7.3 struck in Mexico. A 7.3 earthquake struck in southern Mexico. We had a magnitude 6.3 struck in northern New Zealand as well. A magnitude 6.3 reactivated the site of a magnitude 7.8 in the Philippines. Okay, a 6.3 aftershock reactivated the site of a magnitude 7.8 in the Philippines. A magnitude 6.1 earthquake struck the Gulf, which was described as the strongest earthquake ever to strike that body of water. And closer to home, a magnitude 6.8 hit Baja, California in June. 6.0 earthquake hit in June this year. All this seismic energy propagates throughout the world. Seismic waves from magnitude 7 in Mexico travel through the crust and reach California within minutes. Within minutes. Several years ago, southern Mexico had a 7.0 earthquake. I told everyone then that I fully expected that 7.0 to be in California the following day. And I was right. Because 24 hours later, we had a 7.0 in Big Lake, California. This happens. A magnitude 7.0 in Mexico can travel through the crust and reach California in minutes. They do not cause earthquakes directly, but they load stress. They nudge faults. They nudge faults that are already near a threshold of erupting, popping, rupture. They shake loose sections of the crust they're barely holding on together. Every major rupture in the Pacific Ring of Fire is feeding energy into a system that already has too much of it stored. And that stored energy is not settled anymore. A peer-reviewed study in June 2026 in the Journal of Geophysical Research, Solid Earth, led by Dr. Lillian Buckhard of the University of Bern, alongside colleagues from Northern Arizona University, USGS and the University of California, San Diego, reconstructed 1,000 years of earthquake activity along the San Andreas and the San Jacinto Faults. The San Andreas and the San Jacinto Faults. We've reported on this, guys. We have reported on this. Okay? A lot of reporting on this. The central finding is staggering. The central finding of this seismic activity is staggering, really. Stress levels on both these systems are now at or above the highest values ever seen in the entire 1,000-year period. And this was a physics-based model, not speculation, not narrative. A physics-based model. It tracked how stress accumulated and released over 10 centuries. 10 centuries, guys. 10 centuries. 1,000 years. And it found that the configuration we are approaching today is one where the probability of a major joint rupture is elevated to levels not seen in a millennia. The probability of major rupture on the San Andreas, the Bartlett Springs, the Covello, the San Andreas over in the San Francisco Bay Area, Northern California, the San Andreas in Southern California, it's probable. It's probable it could happen any day now. Any day. A major joint rupture is elevated to levels ever not seen in thousands of years. Geologist Matthew Weingard of San Diego State University was not involved in the study, but he put it plainly when he said, it is important to see a physics-based estimate that the system is sitting at a 1,000-year high. Earthquake system is sitting at a 1,000-year high. The time to prepare is not after the next earthquake. The time to prepare is not after the next earthquake. That's what he said. This study focused on the southern San Andreas and the San Jacinto Fault near Los Angeles. We've talked a lot about this, haven't we? A ton about it, guys. A ton about it. A ton about it. Okay? These faults are going to go. They're going to pop. But remember this. All these faults are connected. All these faults are connected. The Macama, the Bartlett Springs Fault, are subsidiary or ancillary branches of the same broader San Andreas Fault. The Macama and the Bartlett Springs are subsidiary or ancillary branches of the same broader San Andreas Fault. Just like what's happened here in Southern California. Just like what has happened here in Southern California. Okay? Down here in Southern California, we have the San Andreas Fault here. The San Jacinto Fault right there. And other ancillary faults right there. All over LA, all over San Diego, and all over Imperial Valley to the south here. For today here, just north of Calipatria, we have a 2.1 minor earthquake there. And over here on the eastern side of the Chocolate Mountains here, separating San Diego and the Imperial Valley, we have a 1.6 tremor here. Just happened. Just barely happened moments ago. Okay? What happens on one segment of one fault affects all of the others. What happens on one segment of the fault affects all the other segments of faults. The stress does not stop at one indivisible line on the map. It distributes, transfers, it recharges to advance and adjacent other segments. So when the southern San Andreas Fault is sitting at a 1,000-year stress high, and simultaneously the McConnell Fault up north just produced its largest 5.6 earthquake ever recorded in history, and the Bartlett Springs Fault just delivered 2 magnitude 4+ events within the last month. A fault that's been very quiet for the last 2 decades. We are not looking at unrelated phenomena. We are looking at a system that is in motion, a huge seismic system that is in motion, from Northern California all the way down to Southern California and New Mexico. Let's also talk about a phenomenon that the scientific community references when discussing potential precursory activity, which is the concept of foreshocks. Foreshocks, ladies and gentlemen, foreshocks. This is not talking about trying to predict the next earthquake or the exact date that that earthquake is going to occur, because that data remains inconsistent beyond scientific capability right now. But there's something worth understanding about how these large earthquakes occur and how they behave before they first rupture fully. Before these earthquake faults rupture fully, often but not always, a major earthquake is preceded by smaller earthquakes in the weeks or months before the major earthquake occurs, possibly even as much as a year or 2 before it occurs. Foreshocks. Foreshocks. Are this 5.6 and 4.4s up in Bartlett Springs foreshocks? We don't know. We've seen 4.0s and 4.4s over south and west of Cloverdale, California, west of the geysers, the geothermal facility there. Are those foreshocks a large earthquake on the San Andreas? Possibly. Possibly. You only know when there are foreshocks in hindsight. You only know when there are foreshocks in hindsight after the main event occurs. We do not know about foreshocks before the main event occurs. The magnitude 5.6 on the McConnell Fault struck only with a modest number of aftershocks. And a few 3s as well, and a couple of 2s. Not a robust aftershock swarm you would typically expect from an earthquake that fully ruptured on a fault. Fault segment that had accumulated a lot of stress and then released a lot of stress right there. Stress that accumulated over 20 years. When an earthquake fault ruptures and releases everything like we expect the San Andreas Fault to do in Southern California, you usually see a rich aftershock sequence because the surrounding rock is already now trying to readjust to a new stress state. When you get moderate earthquakes capable of minimal aftershock activity on a fault that is capable of a magnitude 7, one interpretation is the main fault segment did not fully rupture. The main fault segment did not fully rupture, meaning we're going to get an 8.0 to an 8.5 on the San Andreas Fault very soon. This does not guarantee a larger event is coming, but it is a data point that concerns seismologists deeply. They take it seriously. Then there's a question of a simultaneous rupture in Northern California as well. Not just in Southern California, but in San Francisco as well. or even north along the Macama Fault near Bartlett Springs, because they run parallel to each other alongside the San Andreas Fault in the north. And they converge together near the Clear Lake volcano. Clear Lake volcano, where we already know that they have intense hydrothermal activity. Hydrothermal activity because the Geyser geothermal field is just south of the Clear Lake volcano. We've already seen the earthquakes in the Geyser's facility. 20, 30 earthquakes on a daily basis, even ramping up to 50 earthquakes sometimes on a daily basis. The geometry creates a possibility of something that is scientifically recognized but rarely discussed in public. That's why we're talking about it. A sympathetic rupture. If conditions are right, a major rupture on the Macama Fault could happen in the San Francisco Bay, could also happen down in Los Angeles and San Diego area. Could happen. Or can happen simultaneously. All three areas could rupture simultaneously. The magnitude would be logarithmic. The magnitude of those earthquakes would be logarithmic, literally. A simultaneous rupture across all fault systems could push into magnitude 7.5 to 8.5 territory. The Geyser facility itself, south of Clear Lake volcano, already producing 4.0, 4.5 earthquakes on a regular basis, could also rupture even higher than that. This is not a coincidence at all. It's not a coincidence that we have geothermal activity in the Geyser's facility. We have a geothermal facility over near Reno where we have earthquakes there. And earthquakes over the Coastal Volcanic Facility, we have earthquakes over there. And then geothermal volcanic facility. We also have earthquakes down in the Salton Sea area here, where we have geothermal facilities just south of the Salton Butte volcano. All these earthquakes happening at the same time, where three faults converge where hydrothermal fluids are constantly lubricating and pressurizing the subsurface, where the accumulated stress is a concentrated outlet. The accumulated stress has a concentrated outlet. Now, let's talk about north of San Francisco at the Napa Fault. The Napa Fault. In 2014, a magnitude 6.0 earthquake struck in Napa, California. It caused over $1 billion in damage in wine country. It was the largest earthquake in the Bay Area since 1906 San Francisco Bay. And before it struck, the West Napa Fault was not even in the main database of known active faults. The West Napa Fault before that earthquake struck was not even in the database of known active faults. Scientists did not have it mapped as a significant fault hazard until years afterwards. Then the fault ruptured the surface. Damage spread across the Napa Valley, uniquely amplifying the geology, changing the geology of the surface. Only in hindsight now did researchers piece together exactly what happened and why the damage there was so significant and severe. The geology of Napa amplifies seismic shaking, like a bowl of water amplifies vibration. Think how it would see a bottle or a bowl of water vibrate after an earthquake happens. The same principle applies throughout sections of Northern California, Central California, and Southern California. Sub-sediment valleys, ancient lake beds, alluvial deposits from landslides falling down on the main lake beds. There may be additional fault strands along the McConnell fault structure we don't even know about. They're not been fully mapped. But researchers have noted that the Macama is so fractured that the vast majority of fault strands associated with it have not yet been identified. Not yet identified. Why is that not surprising to me or to any of us? Why is that not surprising? Out here on the Garlock, we hardly knew anything about the Garlock Fault before the Ridgecrest earthquake occurred. We almost knew nothing about the Garlock Fault until after the Ridgecrest earthquake occurred. And yet now, up here in Covella, California, the Bartlett Springs and McConnell Fault zones have not yet been fully mapped. They know that now. That these two fault zones run parallel to the San Andreas Fault. These two same fault zones are also not just run parallel, but they're ancillary faults of the San Andreas. We may not know the full picture until a big eruption does it, until a big eruption happens. But as we looked at this Bartlett Springs fault, from the perspective of a slip rate that it's had, we've seen it. It accumulates slip at approximately 1/4 of an inch per year. 1/4 of an inch a year. That sounds slow. It is slow. But it is also relentless. It doesn't stop. This is 1/4 of an inch a year over decades and centuries. That slip rate adds up. The Macama Fault slips at the rate of 8 millimeters per year, roughly 1/4 of an inch a year. Both of these faults are slow, but they are large 100-mile-long faults. They've been building up stress for a very long time. The southern segment of the San Andreas Fault. Let's go back down here. The southern segment of the San Andreas Fault has not had a major rupture in over 200 years, 220 years to be exact. More than 2 centuries of tectonic plates grinding and sliding across and against each other, exceeding an inch per year. The tectonic plates grinding against each other with no major release. They move at a rate of 1 inch per year. 1 inch per year. That's 6 inches in the past 6 years. That's huge movement. Yet we've not had a major earthquake there in over 220 years. Think about that. Let's go down here to the border. I've talked about this before. Down here to the border. South of the US-Mexico border. Right down here. This is Guadalupe, Victoria province of Mexico. April 3rd, 2010. We had a 7.2 earthquake that they are now saying was an 8.0. Not on the San Andreas Fault, but east of the fault. Guadalupe, Victoria, Mexico. This earthquake south of the border, at the border, was felt all over Imperial Valley here, all over San Diego here. I was here in San Diego at the time. That earthquake was also felt in northern Los Angeles as well. Huge earthquake. Huge earthquake. Felt over probably 700 miles away. Close to 700 miles away. Over in Arizona as well. And all over northern Mexico as well. Okay? The San Andreas Fault moves about 1 inch a year. The math is not subtle. The stress is there. As we've said before, the San Andreas Fault is ripe to rupture. It's ripe to rupture. The capacity for release for rupture is there. The only variable is timing. The timing is precisely what makes the current pattern, even in Northern California, so significant. In 2026, just 8 months, in Northern California, they've experienced more notable seismic events in Macama and the Bartlett Springs systems than in any comparable period in the previous 2.5 decades, in the past 50 years. You have the Macama Fault producing its all-time largest recorded earthquake. You have the Bartlett Springs producing multiple magnitude 4s or greater events in a very compressed time element. And it was silent for 22 years. Totally silent for 22 years. And at that energy level, you have a 4.2 in Cobradale. The first magnitude 4 in over a greater time period. On that specific segment in 23 years, alongside other activity. And all this is happening, all this is coming together during a period when global seismic energy output is dramatically elevated, when the San Andreas and the San Jacinto systems are sitting at 1,000-year stress high levels. The San Andreas and the San Jacinto systems in Southern California are sitting at 1,000-year stress levels. That's according to all the peer level modeling that's done. When external loading for major eruptions in Venezuela, Mexico, the Philippines, and even over in the Kamchatka Peninsula, where we had that 8.4 earthquake that was actually 9.2, is adding stress to the California fault network. All these major eruptions, ruptures, the fault systems all around this world are adding stress to the already stressed out California fault networks. If you guys live in Northern California, I know many of you do. The preparation message I want to get out today is not panic. The preparation message I want to get out about today is not to panic. Panic never helps anyone. Panic never helps anyone. Don't be prepared. Don't be scared. Be prepared. Don't be scared. Be prepared. But preparation is rational and necessary. And preparation is honestly overdue for many households. Emergency preparedness levels is overdue for many households. I can say for my household, we're pretty prepared here. That's because who I am and what I've done for my job. What I've been doing to help you all during the past 7 years. But preparation is rational and necessary. and overdue for all of us. Overdue for all of us, guys. At the very minimum, you need to have an emergency bag with food, water, first aid supplies, a battery-powered and or a hand crank radio, and copies of important documents. That is only the baseline of preparedness. That's only the baseline of preparedness, guys. Beyond that, think about a backup power solution. Even a small kilowatt-hour battery system that can keep essential food or essential devices charged during a multi-day outage. And believe you me, when a major earthquake ruptures, we're going to have more than just a multi-day outage. You should also be securing tall furniture, water heaters, and anything else that could fall over and cause injury or block exits. I want to also ask you all right now. I've talked about this before, I'm talking about today. Have any of you written your own emergency preparedness plan? Have any of you even started writing your own emergency preparedness plan? Starting off where you are going to meet your loved ones if you are separated during an emergency, where you might meet your loved ones if you're separated during an emergency. What happens when your family is disrupted and no communications are available? What happens when you have no communication with family members? If you don't have a plan, they don't know where to meet you, everybody's going to run around with their heads cut off. That's not a good idea during an emergency at all. What I'm talking about are not dramatic measures. They're the same preparations that emergency management agencies have been recommending for decades. Let me remind you guys, back in 2014, FEMA asked all emergency managers around the United States, asked us one question. All emergency managers around the United States, they asked us one question. What FEMA found out 3.5 weeks later, only 25% of the emergency managers had a 72-hour kit. 25% of emergency managers had a 72-hour kit. Why did they all not have 72-hour kits? The situation's out of hand. Not only has FEMA been asking all Americans to have 72-hour kits for years now, FEMA's been begging emergency managers to set the example and to have a 72-hour kit. How can FEMA or the President of the United States even expect for any citizen to be prepared when our emergency managers are not prepared? My 72-hour kit is sitting across my desk from me right now, sitting across the microphone from me right now. Carol's is downstairs right next to our door. The current seismic pattern in Northern and Southern California is realistic. It provides a very concrete and current reason to actually follow through on your preparation plans rather than keeping your preparedness plans on a mental to-do list. Each one of us must have concrete and current plans written down and available for us to handle. If we don't handle them right now, we're going to be crap out of luck when the plates rupture. Let's go one level deeper. Let's talk about strike-slip nature of these earthquakes, specifically because the focal mechanisms that seismic footprints of each have, these ruptures are telling a consistent and an important story. A very significant earthquake we've discussed in this region has already shown right lateral strike slip motion. Right lateral strike slip motion. I showed you that earlier. The June magnitude 5.6 on the Macama fault was essentially a textbook right lateral strike slip. A textbook right lateral strike slip with a rake angle of close to 180 degrees. 180 degrees like this. Seismologists classified it as a near perfect example. Near perfect example of right lateral strike slip fault. The magnitude 4.4 earthquake in Bartlett Springs Fault showed the exact same component nature, the exact same motion. This confirms that these earthquakes are occurring on the same structural fault planes. The same structural fault planes, adjacent to each other and also adjacent to the westward San Andreas Fault. The right lateral strike slip faults under this much accumulated stress with 100 plus mile length have one known outcome. One known outcome when they fully rupture. And that outcome is a major earthquake. Nothing else worth examining is what connects all these fault systems at a deeper structural level. The same service, the Macama, the Bartlett Springs, and the Rogers Creek Fault, which is near Santa Rosa. Remember we had a 4.5 in Santa Rosa just a few months ago? At the very same depth. The very same depth, 10.6 kilometers deep, 6.2 miles deep. Okay? The Rogers Creek, the San Andreas, the Macama, and the Bartlett Springs Fault are adjacent faults. All these faults are part of a single deformation system, driven by the relative motion between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate that we know are subducting under each other like this. The San Andreas Fault accommodates the majority of that motion, roughly 70-80%. The rest of that motion exists, that 20% motion exists and is distributed across the other ancillary faults. And while each fault accumulates stress at a rate of only a quarter inch per year, when you multiply that out by decades of lock strain, the energy budget is enormous. The energy budget of these earthquakes are enormous, guys. And what we are watching right now looks like a system that's beginning to readjust and redistribute that accumulated energy across multiple segments simultaneously. Across multiple segments, multiple faults simultaneously. That's why I've been talking about this. This is vitally important to know. It's worth noting how widely felt these earthquakes have been. The 4.4 that struck near Covello was felt as far away as Eureka, more than 80 miles from the epicenter, and felt all the way over into Nevada. That kind of wide dispersal from a 4.4 earthquake is telling you something about how efficient seismic energy travels through rock structure. Rock structure, we've talked about this also before. In practical terms, a magnitude 6.5 very strong earthquake or a 7 major earthquake on the Bartlett Springs Fault will be felt across hundreds of miles, reaching into San Francisco Bay, Sacramento, the Central Valley, out even over into Long Valley Volcano. Think about that. There's also the question of infrastructure vulnerability in Northern California. The communities directly along these fault systems sit in narrow valley bottoms. The communities themselves sit in narrow rock valley bottoms. With geology, rock geology beneath the communities that amplifies the seismic shaking. The rock structures amplify the seismic shaking. Roads through the coastal regions are often single route corridors, one-lane routes in each direction, with no alternate path. Meaning a significant earthquake, triggering landslides, even great big huge fissures open up in the roadways, could isolate those communities for days, even weeks, or longer. Meaning those of you that are watching this program, if you live in this area, you're done for weeks. You need to be able to operate by yourself for weeks. Food, water, and otherwise, for weeks. Many infrastructure structures in these rural areas were built before modern seismic codes. They were built before modern seismic codes exist. We talked about what happens when seismic energy meets unreinforced masonry. Knowing these vulnerabilities, honestly, is the first step towards addressing them. But nobody's been doing it. Nobody's been doing much of anything. Because once it's over, we forget what happens. Then we talk about the geysers hydrothermal system just south of the Clear Lake volcano. What about that? Utah just saw a 4-point earthquake just a few minutes ago. Utah just felt a 4.0 earthquake 4 minutes ago. Okay? The region just south of the Clear Lake volcano had a group of magnitude 4 earthquakes and a magnitude 5 earthquake in 2016. All these earthquakes were driven by hydrothermal fluids moving through fractured rock. Every one of these earthquakes loads a small but real increment of stress. Each one of those tremors, minor earthquakes in 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, loads a small increment of stress along the adjacent major faults. Over years and decades, those stress levels accumulate, don't they? The geyser system, guys, let me bring up the geyser system here on the map. I want you guys to understand where that is. This is the geyser system right here, just south of the Clear Lake volcano here. Just south of the Clear Lake volcano. Okay? Geysers is just not a geothermal curiosity, where men drilled in the upper magma chambers of the volcano to obtain steam, to power turbines in this geothermal facility, to generate electricity. It is a persistent stress engine operating right in one of the most critical junction zones in Sonoma County, California, and one of the most critical seismic zones in Northern California's fault network. And the longer geological record confirms everything we talked about, confirms the instrumental record that we've been talking about. Careful excavation of sediments in Macama Fault have identified fault offsets pointing to multiple large earthquakes in the past 200 years. 200 years we had large earthquakes here. These are events that left physical scars on the landscape, displaced rock layers, cracks in the ancient sediments, where only large earthquakes can hit it. The Macama Fault has done this before repeatedly over centuries. The Bartlett Springs Fault we've been talking about carries similar evidence. USGS has been mapping it. They've been mapping the creep also. The tremor creep. This area has been actively creeping, actively building stress, actively accumulating energy for its next release. What is unfolding in Northern California right now is not a guarantee of anything specific. No scientist on the planet can tell us exactly when the next major eruption is going to occur or precisely where the epicenter is going to be. We don't know. We up and out just don't know. However, we do know that it's going to happen. Heidi Patrick just said they had an earthquake over in Snoqualmie, Washington just a minute ago. Doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me. Steve Volcano was asking who's with us, guys, when we have a roll call of who's with us and where you live. We don't want any addresses here. We just want a general idea of where you live. Let's do a roll call here on the chat. Okay? What we're talking about here, guys, is seismic activity that's occurring in a broader context of globally elevated seismic activity. Globally elevated seismic activity. Seismic activity, major seismic activity over the Kamchatka Peninsula, 8.4, that was really a 9.2 earthquake. 7.4 earthquake over in Japan. 7.4 earthquake in the Philippines. Yeah, Philippines. 7.4 earthquake in Peru. Two of them. Two 7.4 earthquakes in Peru. One 3 years ago. One 3 years ago. Then a 5.6 earthquake just the other day. Multiple 7.0s down in southern Mexico. The San Andreas Fault System, including all of its subsidiary faults, Southern and Northern California is under exceptional stress. The Southern San Andreas System and the Northern San Andreas System are under huge stress areas. Their ancillary faults are also under stress. Just like we talked about on the Macama and the Bartlett Springs Fault, what happened this week entered a 22-year silence. Entered a 22-year silence of multiple significant events. And even today, another seismic event happened today, and more in a single month's time than we've ever had. The global seismic energy output for 2026 is on track to exceed 2024. We've talked about this. A peer-reviewed study published this year has confirmed the stress on the Southern San Andreas Fault is at its highest peak in 10,000 years. The stress on the Southern San Andreas Fault is at its highest model level in 10,000 years. And this is not background noise. This is not background noise, guys. This is a signal that the Earth does not forget. Tectonic plate forces have been compressing and shearing and loading the crust of southern Northern California, even in the Pacific Northwest. And these stresses do not take a break. These stresses do not take a break. They operate on geological time scales. Geological time and human time converge. The evidence that we are looking at right now suggests that we may be approaching one of these convergences. We need to prepare and pay attention to what growth is going on beneath the Northern and Southern California area. We need to pay attention to what is going on beneath the ground in Northern and Southern California. Now, guys, in ending this program, share this program with people you care about. Share this program with people you know who live in these regions. Preparedness is not fear. Preparedness is not fear. Preparedness, guys, is respect for forces that have been quietly building beneath our feet. These forces have been quietly building beneath our feet. One of the most beautiful and geographically complex places on this planet. We need to get our acts together, guys. We need to get our acts together right now. Immediately, guys. This is pertinent if we don't want to survive what's happening. This is absolutely necessary if we want to survive what's going to happen. I promise you, it will happen. It will happen. It will happen. In closing, guys, please, I have not seen any support from our super chat today. Please go to our PayPal locations. You see 2 PayPal locations scrolling across the bottom of your screen here. Go there and leave us donations to our program to help support this program. We definitely need it. Also see our EMA address here, Post Office Box. Post Office Box 504 Bethel Road, Box 401, Morganton, North Carolina. The zip code here is 28655. Send us letters, send us cards. You can insert cash or even insert cash or a check inside your letter or your card and send it to us. Tell us how you're preparing for emergencies and disasters you get to see in your area. We'd like to see that. We'd like to see that because we want to help you. We want to help you prepare. We need to know who you are and where you're at. We need to know where you are and where you're at. It's essential for your salvation. It's essential for us to know so we can help you. I want to thank everybody that's been watching the program this evening. It's imperative we get this message out. Share this message with everybody you know. Share this message with your friends, your family, your extended family. Share with your neighbors. Share with the people you associate with on social media. And share with the people you work with. Share with everybody. There's not one thing that's not necessary that people you work with or see would be embarrassed about seeing. I've been showing you this for a long time. Please share this out, guys. It's very, very important to all of us. Important to every member of our family and our friends and everybody. Share it worldwide. Share it worldwide, guys. This is important. This is very important. Guys, I know what we're talking about is real. Okay? I know it's real. It's Friday. Okay? Tomorrow and Sundays we usually take the day off, except I teach Sunday school on Sunday afternoon. Sunday between 12:30 and 1 o'clock in the afternoon. With a Sunday school program that we call Come Follow Me, the Savior Said. We're talking about the New Testament. We're talking about Ezra. And we're also talking about several of the smaller books in the center of the Old Testament. Please join us here Sunday afternoon, about 12:30, 1 o'clock, for another episode of Come Follow Me, the Savior Said. If something happens between now and then, something major happens between now and then, we will be back on there talking about it as soon as the information becomes available. Know this, we love you. We love each one of you. We love the Savior. We love our Heavenly Father. As I said yesterday, or the day before that even, I cannot imagine being in heaven without you, without all of you. Jesus Christ has made that possible by his death and resurrection. He knew his mission when he was there on the earth. He preached the gospel when he was on the earth. Before he passed away, he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, praying. He knew his mission. He prayed to his Father in heaven, Father, if it be thy will, take this cup from me, but not my will, but thine be done. Shortly after that, he was taken to the cross, taken before a judge. The Jews had gathered a criminal and Jesus Christ. Pontius Pilate asked, which one of these people do you want crucified? The criminal or Jesus Christ? The Jews said, crucify him. So Pontius Pilate washed his hand of any guilt and turned Jesus Christ over to the Jews, who whipped him. They whipped him. They took a belt with iron in it, iron spikes, and whipped him with a belt. Pain throughout his entire body. Before that, he was in the Garden of Gethsemane where he bled from every pore. I can only imagine how that pain was. Then to be taken and literally beaten up, and then spikes driven through his feet and his hands, and crucified on the cross. For us. And sometimes later he gave up the breath, gave up the ghost. He was placed in a sepulcher, where 3 days later he rose. He was resurrected. He appeared before his mother and the 12 apostles, and later he ascended to heaven again for the last time. He was resurrected so he could make sure we could also be resurrected and live again with our families and parents and loved ones in heaven. Brothers and sisters, I know this is true. I know what we're feeling today is true. We're feeling joy. Some of us even feel sorrow because we've had friends and relatives pass away. But imagine the great joy you have now here in our lives here. I can only imagine how hard it might be without the possibility of having relationships with these same people we love here on this earth after we pass away. We will see our family members again. Part of the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ is that families can be together forever. As I said earlier this week, in the Bible, Jesus gave the 12 apostles priesthood authority, promising them, quote, whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, unquote. Matthew 8:18. All of us can be bound in heaven with our families forever. May God bless each one of us so we might prepare ourselves, not just prepare us to live, but prepare ourselves for the opportunity to be prepared to get together in heaven after this life is over. Brothers and sisters, I love each one of you. I love you very much. May God be with you this day and always. May God be with you this day and always. I prepared this message for you all week long. God be with you today and always. God be with you until we meet again. We'll see you on the other side. Take care, everybody. See you on the other side. God bless. See you again soon. Take care, everybody. See you soon. Good night.
Here at Emergency Management Associates, we're dedicated and true, bringing you the essential knowledge, helping you see things through. From disaster preparedness to navigating recovery's embrace, we're here to guide you in every unpredictable time and place. We break down the complex, make it easy to grasp and absorb, sharing strategies for safety, the vital lessons you can't afford to hoard, So thank you for watching, and thank you so much for your sub. You're a key part of our growing family, a member of our knowledge club. With every like, every share, and every comment you send our way, our critical message spreads further, helping more people every single day. Together we're stronger and more prepared. That's the truth we all abide. You help us build resilience with nowhere for uncertainty to hide. Your engagement truly inspires us. Your feedback acts as a guiding light, helping us continually grow and making our channel's future bright. We're always learning, always striving to be better. Bring you the most up-to-date information, no matter the weather. Emergency Management Associates is here for you now and forever, it's true. Keep watching, keep learning, because we truly appreciate all that you do. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We love you. Thanks for being with us.